Dave Merrill, what a pleasure to have you. This is a treat. We have known each other, I don't know, probably 3 years, I suspect, through your affiliation with RBDC, and just a lot of interesting things that you're doing in Rexburg. So it's a real treat for us.
Doing in Eastern Idaho.
Well, okay, that's even better, isn't it? So are we, the region of Eastern Idaho.
That's
so
right.
What a pleasure to have you here. And the way we like to start is to let our guests do a little bit of background. That'll give our faculty, staff, and students some context of where you've come from, and we'll delve into a whole litany of things that you're doing with students.
Great.
So Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, quick bio. My wife and I moved to Rexburg area about 5.5 years ago, so we're part of that silver tsunami.
Right.
We love it here. I spent a good part of my career in Dallas, Texas. My undergraduate degree was in computer engineering. I spent 11 years in the weapons of mass destruction business.
So I didn't know that.
Military electronics,
okay.
Weapons systems, laser-guided munitions, computer design, computer simulation, early days of computer-aided drafting and design.
Right.
Spent 5 years in the Mojave Desert blowing up things and watching things get blown up and analyzing it. Had access.
And you got paid for this.
We had during the Reagan years, we had incredible amounts of money. So I had supercomputers and I had things that, I would normally never have access to.
Exactly.
So it was great proving ground. Went on and got a master's in business administration from Cal. I spent 22 years at Hitachi, a large Japanese conglomerate,
right,
and I was their chief economist. So I had this opportunity with my technical degree in computer engineering, computer systems, and then my MBA. I found myself in this interesting overlapping space of IT economics.
Right.
And I spent 22 years with Hitachi in that role, worked around the world, and got to work on some amazing product. We had to turn this technology into a money discussion. So someone's going to go buy a bullet train or a nuclear power plant or a big IT system and storage or cloud systems. My job was to monetize it and make it an economic.
Okay, wonderful.
So it was very, very, very interesting. We moved here to Eastern Idaho. I was not quite retired yet, and I had some cloud economics, some cloud technology projects that I brought to this little research and business development center, and some students there. I did 7 projects with the RBD Center, and I was blown away by what these kids could do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I liked it so much, I retired, and they asked me to be the executive director, and the rest is ancient history.
So how long were you technically retired? I want to kind of compare notes with you. So
I technically.
How long did you last?
I technically overlapped by a couple of months, and so it wasn't much of a retirement.
You did not have much retirement.
But I'm not on an airplane, and I'm not going through TSA, so it is retirement. So
okay, that's fair enough.
Lifestyle change, yeah.
Okay, so you're in Rexburg now, and why don't we delve into RBDC? Because we've actually used probably at least 3 different projects as this college moved from iTech into College of Eastern Idaho and used a lot of your students. But why don't you set the context for RBDC and what is it you want to do with students?
So if you go back just for a short history, President Kim Clark, when he came from Harvard to be the president of BYU Idaho, wanted to bring this regional economic development engine. He knew that he couldn't grow the school unless we grew the economy.
Good.
So we did some business development, 10 or 15 years ago. But in the present day, we're taking a different approach. We are not about growing the local Idaho economy. We are working to provide experiential work, internship work for undergraduate students. That's our mission.
Right.
So we find projects from all over the region, and really all over the country, to bring here into this area. We find we do about 200 projects a year.
Okay.
And Amanda, you can show that one slide that shows some of the clients, so some of the local clients that we have. We have many. We have some great name clients. But we bring the work here, and then we find students to be on a team and they can work on that project for 12, 13 weeks in different modes. They can count that work experience just to be on their resume. They want to have a resume building experience with a Walmart or with a Melaleuca. They want to, they can use it for a capstone credit. They can use it for a senior project. They can use it for an internship. And so it's up to the students to decide how do they want to count this work experience. But we are finding, so we thought, well, so we are student focused, to be sure.
Absolutely.
But I'm amazed at the companies that are coming to us and saying, I want your kids. And they want your kids too, President. They want, because there are some skills around social media marketing and around web design and around cyber and around data analytics that is a up and coming generational skill set. So they are coming to us saying, yeah, I'll give you my projects. I'll give you 3 or 4 projects. And I want to watch Bobby and Jamie and Eric as they progress, because I'm going to pluck them out. And I'm going to give them a job offer. I'm going to give them an on-site internship. And so this is becoming a talent pool, a talent pipeline for a lot of the major employers. So pre-COVID, unemployment was what? 2.something% in Eastern Idaho.
Sure.
And so even post-COVID, they are still looking for this talent. And then the employers in Idaho are tired of the talent leak, of people coming and getting an associate degree or bachelor's degree and then leaving the area. So how can they retain them? And part of it is we say, give us your projects, give us this work that's meaningful. Then you watch these kids and you grab them and give them a good livable salary when they're done or while they're doing an internship.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what we want with our students, and that's why it's been so intriguing to visit with you and understand the model that RBDC has got. And you place a lot of students in internships, and we call it pick of the litter when we do it in welding or machine tool or nursing, that those employers get a chance to look at a student, and if they do well, they virtually will have an offer once they've graduated. So it is a great an important component of a student's education.
But we're not an employment agency.
Oh, no, I know.
And so
exactly.
So the soft skills that a student gets from working on a project with a Westmark Credit Union or with a Ag Reserves or with Monsanto is that, yes, it looks great on their resume. But I got to tell you, and as an employer, when I was recruiting and interviewing students, your GPA, your transcript is good. But they want to hear about your problem-solving skills. They want to hear about working with a conflict in a team skills. They want to hear about your communication skills. And if you, as a student and as a looking for a job situation, if you can talk about your experience, not just at the local, fast food restaurant, but in a real world business opportunity, say, here's what I did and here's what I learned and here are the soft skills about working and solving.
Right.
That is gold. And again, don't get me wrong, the GPA and the degree is still very important, but it's those soft skills that really are a differentiator when it comes to getting a good employment.
So one of the things we talked about just prior to starting the interview would be at the college, we would like to see our students with three skills when they leave. And the first is just a regular degree, Associate of Arts, Associate of Science, or Associate of Applied Science, an internship or some relationship in a business.
Yep.
And then finally, an industry recognized certification. And if we can give our students those 3 things, we have gone a long way to providing a great resume builder, even if they go on to finish a baccalaureate degree.
Sure. So give me your honest answer. Is finding a good, meaningful, experiential job a hard thing to do in Eastern Idaho? Sometimes. Is the perception it's a hard thing to go do?
But the beauty of RBDC and the work that you've done, you've developed the relationships already, and that's so for us as a young college, leveraging those relationships that you have with business and industry is such an advantage to our students.
Rick, I've got a student shortage every semester.
Okay. We need to help you.
You need to help us. We hope that your faculty can help us. We hope that
look at the camera and tell them to help you.
We've got some amazing projects in plant and animal science and in healthcare administration. We do projects with the major hospitals in the area. It may not be in the operating room. It may not be, but we're involved with so many things, with business research, with market analysis, with performance analysis, with supply chain, with IT, with social media marketing. So Amanda showed that some of those logos of those companies. And sometimes as a student, we think, well, I only want to do this. And a great example is our friends at Good to Go, based here in Idaho Falls, a regional convenience store, right?
Exactly.
It's like, well, they just pump gas. And it's like, yeah, they do a lot more than pump gas and sell donuts, These guys and their supply chain, they're having our student teams look at electrical vehicle recharging stations and the probability of blah, blah, blah. And where should we be putting in a car wash? And how can we correlate the purchase of their gas to a soft drink, to a customer experience? And so we're bringing in students from psychology and sociology and engineering and whatever, and marketing. And so there are companies here, and then we think, well, they're a donut store and a gas station store. But Rick, there's a lot of money in those donuts. There's a lot of money in those fields of plants out there.
Exactly.
And so we provide a brokering service where we can say, look at these jobs and these work projects that we have from a variety of companies. Come and join a team. All of our projects are based on student teams. So you may have a communication or an English or business or finance or an engineering or sociology or whatever student on that team solving a problem. And so if it's really hard to find. So one of your three pillars is internship and work experience. Mm-hmm. You think, well, I don't want to go knock on a bunch of doors. I've done that hard work for you. And when we bring these projects, over 200 projects a year, and we're running a student shortage. We got employers who are growing in this part of the country, and they are looking for a talent, and they see the talent of BYU Idaho, of Ensign College, of CEI, of ISU, of Boise State, and they are wanting to give to the students, but they also want to be able to say, hey, I can use this as a sort of a recruiting platform going forward as well.
So one of the things that was interesting when we began to talk about this is the concept of a student not necessarily needing to be a junior in a baccalaureate program, but talk a little bit about maybe in particular data analytics and really with a couple of good classes or maybe a certification or two, they become very employable at that point.
Yeah, there's this concept, and I call it, what do I call it? Time to value, time to business, time to problem solving.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, a bachelor's degree, a student with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in data science, data analytics can demand top dollar. Don't get me wrong.
Exactly.
And you'll get hired by Ford and by the whole world will hire you. But there's also this time to business. And there are some certificates and some skill sets that it doesn't matter if you're 19 or 20 years old, or if you're 25, or if you have an associate or not. It's that certificate. And so to that end, I think, I know that there's a real opportunity, there's a real demand for data analytics and data science skills. Mm-hmm. That's exactly. A very broad umbrella. That's everything from machine learning to programming to data visualization. Is a big umbrella. I think we've got a report here that says in the U.S. right now, there are 250,000 openings for data science people. And in the virtual world, you don't have to live in San Francisco to do that. You can do it right from here. And so we are building, we have built, and we've done a rollout of a data science academy. And Rick, and I appreciate you inviting me here. Mm-hmm. We are inviting, and I'd like to invite CEI students and the faculty to be aware of and join our Data Sciences Academy. In that academy, we're going to have some competitions, codathon activities.
Right.
We're going to have some experiential work. We're going to bring some live projects from some of our regional companies, but we're also going to offer certificate training. And right now we're starting with Power BI from Microsoft.
I love that you're actually tying this to an industry certification.
Now Power BI, so we've got four classes that we give you a highly discounted rate to go take these classes on your own. It's not for a grade, it's not for graduation, but after those 4 classes, you're prepared to sit for the data analytics, the DA100 exam from Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Tableau saying, when can we come play in this game? I've got Domo, I've got Shiny RStudio, I've got other software vendors who want these undergraduate students to have their hands and their fingerprints all over their products. And so, yes, you can get this DA100 from Microsoft. You can get a data visualization certificate from Tableau. And this is this whole idea of, and it doesn't require you to be a sophomore or junior or even graduate. It's a certificate. So we start stacking these things ourselves, and we have some practicums in this academy. We're going to have a place where you can either compete with your skill set or where you can do a project. And so now you've got a resume or a LinkedIn quality experience with the certificate while you're going to school to get a formal associate or baccalaureate degree.
And you know, given as we look at post-secondary education, higher ed, and what's happening in this country, the concept of skills becomes really important. And neither you nor I would say it takes the place of a degree, but maybe at some levels it does, because business is looking at skill sets.
It depends on the business. It depends on the individual.
Right.
You know, if your time to value is short, you know, you don't have 4 years or 6 years to go get all these degrees and advanced degrees. In a couple of months, you can have a couple of certificates, and you can start stacking these certificates to create your own portfolio of academic material. There are some who say the baccalaureate degree may be something that evaporates over time, but it's this definable and demonstrable set of skills, and certificates prove to your employer, I have the skills.
Sure.
Okay, I'm ITIL certified, I'm DA100 certified. The cyber certification, I forget what that one is called.
Well, there's network, there's network security, and so CompTIA has a variety of those.
There we go. So yeah, you're right. I think it's, you know, we add our certifications. The industry is always changing. If what you're certified on 10, 20 years ago may be sort of obsolete now, and so there's this constant demand of keeping current and keeping certified.
So one of the things too that you've mentioned is reaching into high schools and starting this early. And I know that you're interested in that, and we'd love to work with you in the high schools. As we do dual credit, of course, but what a great opportunity for high school students, juniors and seniors, probably to be working in these kind of realms, which I can easily do.
Absolutely. So we're opening up our Data Science Academy to any undergraduate student here in Eastern Idaho, including high school students. But you don't have to think, well, you know, I'm not a really good programmer. I'm really not strong here or there. We've got students that come who are looking at census data. We have students that are looking at security log data, at retail data. We have a project where we've got a database of every NBA game in 2018, of every game, of every second of every game, of what happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So you get a sports fan, and I don't know if you've seen the movie Moneyball. You get a sports fan who loves sports, and now you merge that with a data understanding to visualize and manipulate data. And these kids are doing research on what happens to the Nike stock on LeBron James's shoe the night after a back-to-back when he was playing above 5,000 feet elevation and he has more than 10 assists. Some crazy, weird stuff.
Sure.
If you're a sports fan, you're going, wow, that's pretty cool. Now how do I learn how to manipulate and use this data to tell a story? Or if you're in the medical profession, how do I tell the story? We're hearing a lot of storytelling around COVID right now, aren't we?
We are.
Those
Absolutely.
are from the data analysts. Or about fertilizer effectiveness on potatoes. Data is everywhere. And so in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but in my opinion, having a data experience and the vocabulary and being bilingual in what you're passionate with, along with a data skill set, is going to be invaluable. For me in my career, I had a bilingual nature of IT and economics.
Sure.
And that did great for me. Going forward, I would encourage anybody, take your passion in automotive engineering, in nursing, and medical, in plant, in the farming, and biotech, you name it, but you add data to that, and you're going to be a valuable asset to an employer who needs to improve their business and wants to do it with data.
So that's interesting. Again, we do the first 2 years of a baccalaureate. So talk about some of those baccalaureate degrees, maybe in humanities and English or those kind of things. How could this apply to an English major or a history major, perhaps?
Let me tell you by way of a story. So we have several projects where we're dealing with data visualization, large amounts of data. We have a cancer research database project that we're working on. But you know what? We have all these really smart kids who can Python program and R program.
Sure.
But we need the art student.
Okay, good.
Because of that color, of how we present that data. We need the humanities and the English and the comm student, because they know how to communicate that human to human to tell the story. And so nothing against hardcore programmers, but we've got to take this data and this storytelling experience and make it actionable. And so these teams of students, there's a young lady who did a project with us. She graduated in marriage and family relations. She got some skills around analytics. She was hired by the Navajo Nation to help solve a problem around single-parent households in the Navajo Nation and their probability of poverty.
Right.
So her passion for the family, for the nuclear family, for the father, but she was getting her data from the census and from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and taking all this data and turning it into policy.
Right.
So it is the people in policy, or the visual graphics, or who can help communicate and write. That's the beauty of it. But it's that bilingual, to me, it's that bilingual skill set of take what you're good at,
right,
writing and art and visualization, display, the family, medicine, ag science, whatever, and you snap it onto a data skill set. I think it becomes very, very interesting.
So I really like that. And again, I think that's something we want to help our graduates with, especially when they're moving into a baccalaureate degree and not a hard science baccalaureate degree. But you made a pretty significant case for almost any kind of baccalaureate degree, given a little bit of understanding of data and those kind of things.
That's one example, you bet. That's one example. But to me, it's a skill set that is going to be as valuable as knowing how to do word processing or simple spreadsheets. It's just, our world is full of data. Our world is full of sensors, is full of census information, is full of traffic information, and your cell phone, your watch is storing patterns and trends, and companies will pay to have you harvest that and make that data, turn that data into money.
Could you give some examples of companies that you're working with?
Yeah, so we've got, I mentioned this cancer research database company. They've got all this cancer information, breast cancer, colon cancer, the Taproots Medical, I forget the third cancer, but they're taking all this treatment data and then showing how they can visualize it differently. So to a doctor, based on your age or your gender or your race or all these different factors, what protocols might be really, really good for you. We do a lot of work with the analytics with growers associations, the Wheat Growers Association, with ag and ag finance.
Right.
We're using analytics with what do you call it? So the state and local governments on how they pay their employees and what's the good price range for a chief of police in Salmon, Idaho versus Aman, Idaho.
Sure.
Plant animal science, marketing, a lot of market research data. We have companies who come to us to say, I'm a chiropractor, I'm looking at expanding my office, where should I go? Well, we can use data from the census, from traffic patterns, from crime. We can bring all this in together and build for them a heat map of what part of the state should they be considering to plant their next office based on all this data about median income and the access to elementary schools or whatever they're looking for.
So again, we seldomly have a conversation not bring up Idaho National Lab. So when you think about them, what are areas that you think our students could work in or work toward? A lot of times it's kind of hard to be hired as a 2-year graduate at the lab, but ultimately, what are those really important fields that you think exist at the lab?
So we have an ongoing contract with both Lawrence Livermore National Lab and Idaho National Lab for their tech transfer office.
Oh, tech transfer. Okay.
So they will say, here's some stuff that we invented, and we invented it for a nuclear transportation thing, Bob. Find another commercial use for this thing.
Sure.
Okay, and so our kids will go out and do market research and do surveys and do their business analytics. And a couple of years ago, we had these micro beads. I can't even describe them, but really, really small beads. And the students came up with the idea, this would be a great additive for shampoo. So when you shampoo your hair and when you glow the next day, you know why, but this idea of here's a problem, and as a team of students, you've been working on what could we do with this? We've had projects around cyber for national labs. We have projects around, we have a very interesting project right now helping them with a daycare problem they have at the national lab.
Interesting.
And so
they would, wouldn't they?
They would, well, especially with COVID.
Of course.
So they came to us and said, can you help us with a project to understand what we should be doing, what the right price point, where it should be, what do the parents need, what are the expectations, what are the certifications of a daycare for the national lab. So it's not all about nuclear engineering. It's the, yes, they are the biggest employer, and they are great. But they have so many ideas and projects that we work on for them across a variety of things. And so at the end of the day, a student does this work, they get to put the INL on their resume. Mm-hmm. Yes, I worked on a daycare business case study for the national lab, but it's still that meaningful work with the team, with a pronounced goal at the end of the project.
Yeah, and that's important. I like that term, meaningful work, and that is, I think, really the key for our students is to have that experience with meaningful work.
Yeah.
One of the areas we've talked about, and this is out in the future a bit, but it's entrepreneurship. So Idaho, Eastern Idaho is kind of known for entrepreneurship. What do you see when under that umbrella of entrepreneurship?
Well, you and I are on several committees and several organizations to try to bring the entrepreneurial incubation idea to our area. Whereas with these students, these students, the students in Idaho and Ensign and others, they have ideas. They have an idea for the next killer app for the iPhone. They have an idea. We had a young man with this game controller idea, and he had 3D printed it. One of the local banks has a 3D printer in their lobby, and he went and printed this thing out.
Okay.
And he showed it to us, and you can control all sorts of things from this one. It's like, this is a brilliant piece of innovation. Mm-hmm. So we are working, and we would love to have your involvement. We're working on creating a student entrepreneurial Kickstart program.
Good.
Getting students, get their idea, surround them with some marketing and business students, because they may not be a marketing and business student themselves.
Right.
And get ready to go compete for money, for prize money. Rexburg, Idaho Falls, the Boise, there's lots of competitions.
There's
around.
lots.
There's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so we help. So this entrepreneurial academy will help a student bring their idea. We'll wrap you around with some other business and finance, like I said, these marketing things, help you develop your idea, and then help you get ready to go compete. And so and Boise State has an excellent model, as does Weber State.
Right.
So we're looking at some of those models to see how we can get this up and going, and providing a program and a framework for students to say, I want to try something. I want to see if this has legs and it could really work.
So let's kind of future for a couple of minutes and go. Let's go up to 30,000 feet. And as you look at the region, where do you think the hot jobs are going to be? Where do you think the economy is going to go? If you're advising a nephew or a niece as to where some real sweet spots in the economy, what would you tick off as being important?
Well, we've got a lot of data.
Yeah, well,
the data suggests things like cloud computing, like cyber, like data analytics is going to be there. What's interesting, though, is if you would have asked me that question 15 years ago, it's like, well, where can I get cheap land? I need to go build a warehouse and whatever else. With the virtual nature of our work now, the people are already coming to Idaho. Mm-hmm. There are people who are deliberately moving here. And so the other question is, well, what kinds of virtual work or physical work supports this migratory pattern of what's coming here? And we're seeing Silicon Valley, we're seeing these tech entrepreneurs, we're seeing a lot of companies who are coming here. And so we can say, well, what do they need? Of course, they're going to need good healthcare. And so anybody in the healthcare business is going to be in a good position going forward in this area. You look at the national labs, and they're a natural magnet towards some kinds of engineering and manufacturing.
Right.
But I also believe that there's this skill set, especially around cyber, especially around the analytics, where it's location independent. And so in that mode, so do you have to move to Washington, to Seattle, to work for Amazon before you can come back? I'm seeing people who have been given job offers for Amazon and who stay right here in the area. So there's no need to move. And so I guess part of that question is, what are your passions? And mm-hmm. what there's a natural affinity here for agriculture, so ag tech. We have a natural space, but I really think it's what a student or a company wants to make it of themselves. There are tech jobs, there are hands-on skilled jobs, to be sure, that will be where the population needs to be.
So COVID is showing us a lot of things as a college that in relatively short notice we've had to deliver classes online. And initially, whatever it was, late last year, as COVID began to emerge, we did a lot of we couldn't have employees and faculty on campus, and we moved to working out of a home, a remote environment. I think part of your argument here is there are a lot of jobs, exactly the areas we're talking about. Welding you can't do. Nursing's pretty hard to do. Yeah. Those are pretty hard to do. But on the other hand, there's a whole litany of jobs that could be done from a region you'd want to live in, and you could make a wonderful living at.
Absolutely. But when people come to deliberately live here, they're going to want to have good medical facilities and good health care. The National Lab is not moving anytime soon. The small modular reactor and all of that work. So the manufacturing and the trucking and the services jobs will naturally, grow along with that economic change. But we don't. I don't know that we need to have a big stimulus to create Silicon. I don't know what we can be, Silicon Valley or
the forest. Well, all the good ones have been taken, haven't they?
But so much of it now is like, well, do I need to move to work for a big company, or can I work for a big company remotely, or can I work for some things on my own? Can I hang up my own shingle and start my own kind of a standalone practice? And Again, but there are some great companies here. If you want to get into analytics, if you want to get into machine learning, if you want to get into cybersecurity, there are companies here. The FBI is building their national cyber facility 25 miles down the road.
They are, exactly.
And so there are the big employers that will come. And so, as they see the programs that you're developing here and at ISU and BYUI and Boise, people are going to be attracted to come here because the cost of living is low, the workforce is highly skilled. And so there's going to be a natural synergy. But at the end of the day, I think your question goes back to, what are some of the hot jobs and the hot skills? And I can't think of anything that would, fit with where this area is going to be going.
It applies to almost any area of business and industry. For students who are looking at data analytics and those kind of things, they might say, I'm not very good at math. What level of math do you think is appropriate to be skilled in data analytics?
It depends on where you are in that data analytics spectrum. Like I mentioned, we need visual artists who can help us with it. We need people who can communicate and write and turn it into policy. And so if you're going to be a programmer, if you're going to be dealing with data manipulation and averaging and statistics, there certainly is a strong propensity to having a good stat background, to be sure. But I wouldn't let that.
So maybe statistics, maybe more so than calculus or those kinds of things.
Very possibly,
would be a better background in.
Yeah. But part of it is just this idea of organizing, and working as a team. One of my last projects at Hitachi was providing the replacement rail service for the trains in London. I don't know if you've ever been to London before, but trains are plus or minus about an hour in terms of efficiency.
And they're not German, are they?
in Japan, the trains there run plus or minus a second.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So that's the project that we were bringing to London. Well, to do that kind of efficiencies, they needed to grab satellite data, weather data, the sporting venue data, the traffic data. We had to bring all this information together to understand how that would affect the load of the train station. So when a soccer game got out, they better know they better have an extra 19 cars there to handle all this intelligence. So some of that's programming. Some of it is the human interaction and human behavior and human patterns and weather and track conditions and all these different factors. And so it is a multi-skilled set, based on manipulating, visualizing, and handling the data. So some stat background certainly is helpful, but also this young lady who works with the Navajo families, her passion for the family was very, very meaningful for her.
So practically speaking, for our faculty or deans that are listening, what do you think in the realm of clubs, perhaps, or relationships with RBDC? What are some practical things that we could do here to help our students plug into these opportunities?
Well, you and I have talked in the past. We have this year we're going to help around 1,200 students get experiential work or internships.
Yeah.
And it may surprise you to know that we run a student deficit every single semester. We have more projects than we have students.
We just have to help you with that. We can't have this.
So please do. So the first offering is, and we would sort of see how we work together. But my first offering is to say CEI students are now invited to join our Data Science Academy for the spring term. And Amanda, if you could show that one slide, we've got a website where you can go to. We are waiving the dues for spring term.
Well, thank you.
For everybody, not just for you. But.
Well, no, but nevertheless, that's good.
And we're offering a Power BI class number 1, class number 2. We've got these keynote speakers. We're going to have a competition and some experiential work. And so first and foremost, you are all invited to our data science party starting the first 2 weeks of January. You can register online. There's a URL up there. We have a video talking about the benefit of that. So I think the clubs and this academy idea is an easy way to say, come to our party.
Right.
Come and bring us the skills that you have. We would love to, over time, grow into, could I park one of my projects in one of your classroom as a work experience? I would love to work with your career center, and I'd like to be able to offer up over time where your students can apply for a low level or a high level internship position at the center. We have a job board, and Amanda, you can put that job board or our URL or RBDC URL. And if they want to apply and come work for Klein or come work for a Melaleuca project, I'd like to be able to have the opportunity where your students could participate with our students and those of Ensign in the area to be part of an experiential project. And whether it counts for credit, you'll have to go figure that out. Whether it counts for the apprenticeship or internship, your academic teams will figure that out.
But even if it doesn't, it gives a skill set to a student. And that's really what we're after, is a well-rounded, employable student when we're done.
Absolutely. So their academic work, their grade points, what they've done in the classroom, what they've done outside with extracurricular activities or deliberate work experiences, that's going to give, that's the area that I would like to have more dialogue with. What could we do? Take a look at all the projects that I have, regional and national. What kind of things are interesting to your student body? What kind of things would resonate well, either in a terminal project or ongoing project or something in the classroom? So if we've got faculty and department chairs listening in, what kind of things would you like to have as a real world experience? And we do this a lot with business and with communications, with nonprofit organizations, with growers, you name it, everybody around. So again, we have to get away from the logo of what they do, but everybody has a business or a problem that we can solve. And if we can solve it in a classroom setting with the faculty overlooking, or in one of our RBDC projects, or in a club, I'm great with that.
And you've had a chance to meet our new dean, Chuck Bollocky.
Yep.
And we'll keep him connected with you, because that would be the direct interface with faculty. And
so our cyber program is going to have your fingerprints all over it.
Good.
So that we're deliberate. We're working with Chuck and your SOC and our cyber offering that we hope to have. We have a couple of customers. We have customers before we have the student and the project definition, but we hope to have our first formal projects late 2021.
Oh, that's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So, now students wouldn't necessarily have to drive to Rexburg to RBDC in order to do some of this training, because I think a lot of this is virtual. So
even pre-COVID, even pre-COVID. So BYU Idaho, you may know. 20,000 kids in Rexburg and about 20,000 students around the world. And so our model has to be a virtual model. And so pre-COVID, we might have 2 or 3 kids in Rexburg in our offices with a customer meeting, and 2 or 3 that are in Venezuela or South Africa. Since COVID, everything has gone virtual. So it does not matter where you live. It does not matter what you're doing, and you bring your skill set. We have all these jobs, these opportunities. Some of them are competitive, but it's all open enrollment. We turn away no one.
Right.
Not when you run a deficit of students every semester.
No, that is so.
But that's what's encouraging, is that we have so many projects, so many employers who want access to these students. They know social media and Facebook and Google. They love playing RPG games. We have a customer doing a 3D point cloud, which is a virtual environment simulation. We recruited from the gamers on campus because they're the ones that get that. And so, yeah, it's really fun to see that employers are knocking on our door saying, I need to have some eyes to take a look at this business problem, or this technical problem, or this operational problem that I have.
And that's a big advantage, this synergy. It would take us years, if ever, to develop this kind of relationship with the business community. That takes years to nurture. And,
I bet you do, though. I bet you do.
Well, I mean, we do a little bit, but not at this level. So the synergy with RBDC lets us give a rich experience to our students that we wouldn't have to hire a full-time position to go out and develop these relationships. So that's what I like about this.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it, that we are a 501c3 nonprofit.
Right.
We do get some USDA grants. We do get some Idaho grants. We have donors that come and say, I really am passionate about this. We have a program at the RBDC around suicide prevention, opioid addiction. We got some donors who said, I love what you're doing, and so here's the money to help that get going. And so it's all over the map. You take a look at some of those clients, and Amanda had the list of just the regional clients that we have. We've got some amazing companies, engineering companies and manufacturing companies on the East Coast, and they love what they're seeing here.
Sure.
Just like I was so impressed with what I saw, 4 years ago. I said, this is great. And Rick, I got to tell you, these businesses and the work they're giving, we have no business doing this in Eastern Idaho. This is stuff that would be in Berkeley or in Palo Alto.
Right.
But it's here in Idaho Falls and Rexburg. And the students are crushing it. They're doing amazing things. So their ability to learn and to apply themselves is a credit to your school, to BYU Idaho, to the families from where they come from. And for us to marry this up and to give them that confidence is just a real blessing to see how that all turns out.
That's exactly true. So strangely enough, we are just about out of time, Dave. This goes really quick. Certainly you are enthusiastic about this. We could do this for a couple hours. So one of the things I like to do as we wind up with our guests, you have been in multiple positions of leadership. So what are 3 techniques of leadership, principles that you've dealt with that you could share with our audience?
Well, I don't know if they're good qualities or not, but I am an impatient person. And so
I know that.
I'm willing to take some risks. Sure. I'm willing to use some intuition, some good information, some facts, some data, but to take a risk. Right. And try something that maybe hasn't been done. If we want to have a very clearly laid out path in front of us, no one's going to provide that to you anymore. So sometimes we got to take a risk, right. And don't be afraid to say I made a mistake and to pivot and turn around if you need to. But I've learned that being deliberate in your intentions and having a mission and a purpose in that risk taking can usually work out.
Yeah.
So that would be one thing. Another quality, I think, for an effective business opportunity or any kind of opportunity is to be a good listener and to develop the empathy, of what is going on. I moved here from Dallas. I moved to Eastern Idaho, and I heard for months and months and months about this talent leak and why are the students leaving, and I listened and I didn't understand, and I don't know if I still understand that, but so I've learned to listen and have some empathy about what that speaker or what that person is telling me and how to respond to it, and not to be too quick to judge or to answer, even if I think I know the answer sometimes. So I'm not always good with that. So being unafraid to take a risk, take a chance, move on, and then the third point, maybe if I can offer a third point, sure, follow your passion.
Good. Okay.
Follow your passion.
Right.
If you love cars, and your dad wants you to be a software engineer, then find a way maybe that intersects, or can be compatible or whatever. But boy, if you don't have passion for what you do in your career and what you're doing in your schooling, if you don't just love learning and continuing to learn, because for your career that learning can never end. And so hopefully that passion is the energy behind you. All of the activities.
You certainly have done this. So as a second or third career, or whatever you feel like you're on now, you certainly are passionate about this. And as with us, our students are going to benefit greatly. So I want to thank you for this vision and for the opportunity for us as a college to work closely with RBDC.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. Your school provides a really important space. I think there's a gap, and you're providing this students with a 2-year certificate-based, get to market, that time to value, time to business is faster.
Right.
And that is so important. Yes, and maybe you are a gateway to higher ed, baccalaureate, master's degrees, you bet. But I commend your students for what they're doing. If they're going to work and going to school at the same time, follow your passions, talk to people, find out what works. If this analytics is of interest, if you can find a way to have that be part of your bilingual, trilingual skill set, so be it. But good on you all for being in school. It's awfully easy to say, oh, school is hard and grades are hard. I'm not good at math. Boy, you've got to knock down some of those artificial barriers and just stick with it.
Absolutely. So Dave Merrill, RBDC, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Good to have you. And for our viewers and guests, wish you a great weekend. Now, next week, our guest is going to be Director Mark Peters from INL. So maybe one of the last things he's going to be doing here in the region before he moves on to other things. So I welcome you to come back next week at this time. So